Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's Power Hour. I can see a few more people rolling in, which is great. Carol, it's great to have you along. I've made you co-host so you can let all these awesome people in as they turn up. And thank you so much to everybody for turning. Wow, I can see everybody showing up now. Just as I started, they're obviously waiting for me to rip into it. So thank you all for showing up tonight. I realize time of year, there is so much going on. We got Christmas functions, we got end of year, and it's a pretty hectic time in everybody's lives. But hey, what a great time to jump in and start to learn about some new ideas, new concepts as we lead into 2023. Because I think, well, before I do go any further, we're pretty interesting times that we have got coming up in 2023 in terms of what are we going to see from the property market, what are we going to see from just the economy in general, and also within New Zealand, we do have an election coming up as well. So a very interesting time to be looking in the property space, but a great time as well if you understand what you are doing and have the knowledge behind you. So welcome everybody. It is so good to see you all here. Good one, Carol. It sounds like you had a good little Christmas party this afternoon. That's brilliant. So before I do go any further, guys, my name is Jono, and I'll be sharing with you the ideas and concepts tonight over the hour. Now, what I would love to do is make this as interactive as possible. So I'm sure Carol's going to do a great job in the chat because she is an amazing on the chat, but please join her so she's not left there looking like a weirdo having a conversation with herself. So please, in the chat at any stage, jump in there, comments, questions, anything. I'd love to see those coming in. I did see the one coming in around the content may be suitable to Australians. Absolutely. The content will be suitable for no matter where you're investing. The concepts and the deals I'm going to be showing you tonight will be New Zealand based, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't be accessing deals like this. And many of our students have actually been through from Australia and done exceptionally well through their purchases. So I look forward to sharing those ideas with you. Right, I think it's time that we get into it and share a little bit about what we're going to be covering off tonight. Now, I'm actually a little bit excited about this concept because this whole idea of legacy is really, really important to me. The whole legacy of your family, because that there is what it's about for me in terms of being able to give back to your not only your immediate family, but also the generations to follow. So for me, it's a really, really important topic to be talking through, and one that is obviously really, really important to me. So hopefully we can share some light on that one. I'm going to be sharing with you, first of all, how one deal can literally be a year's salary. One deal. And that there is an idea that means that you guys can actually just jump into one transaction that's going to be able to give you the salary that you're earning over a year. And this one's always a funny one because you talk about the idea of one deal and people go, right, so you do a property transaction, but you're going to have to pay tax on it. I'm like, yeah. And if you work for 48 hours per week for 40 weeks of the year, you're going to pay tax on that income too. So we'll definitely talk a little bit about that for sure as we go through tonight. The next idea I'm going to talk about is the idea of equity and being able to use equity in a home, because you may have a property worth, say, $500,000, but you only got a $200,000 loan. You've got $300,000 of wealth sitting there. But what is that wealth and what does that give us the ability to do? I'm going to share with you how that works and how you can actually use that wealth to be able to purchase more properties, which is obviously very important. And then how you can continue creating that wealth. And then I'm going to be sharing with you some really current examples. And I'm very excited to be able to share with you a deal that I purchased on Monday. I wanted to get something in nice and fresh for you guys. So I went unconditional on Monday. It hasn't settled. It settles end of next week. Renovation starts on the day it settles. And I'll be sharing with you guys some details about that one. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to be really mean, and I'll make sure you hang out with me for the whole hour. And I've put that right at the end. So guys, at the end of tonight, I will share with you the deal that I have just recently purchased, which has pretty cool numbers, and look forward to showing with you what is possible within the current market with property. So a big day or big hour ahead of us. And we will rip into it. Again, any questions, please drop in the chat. We are here for you guys to make sure that we can answer any questions and send you away more knowledgeable than you joined us. beforehand. So a little bit about myself before I do go any further. So obviously I've introduced myself. My name is John. I've told you already about me in terms of legacy, family man. My first investment property was on a reality TV show. I always say this, and I will repeat it. I think it's important. We should probably put in the terms and conditions of signing up is that you're not allowed to Google the show that I was on, because I'll make a complete fool of myself. So I was on a show called Our First Home, where we bought a house, renovated and sold it. Pretty simple concept. And then the profits went on to be able to give the kids, because you did it with your parents, to go in and buy a house. So that was my first investment property, which was coming up around 7.5, 8 years ago now. I am now the head of property at Wealth Mentor. I actually went through all the education within Wealth Mentor. I sought out Wealth Mentor after doing the reality TV show, and wanted to continue educating myself, continue learning, make sure I was going to do it correctly, because I saw the profits that could be made through property. So that's when I sought out my education, gone through as a student, just like you guys, mentor, and then end up buying the business, as you do. And here I am today sharing with you guys the ideas that have been able to change my life in terms of property investment. And lastly, but probably not most importantly, is I do enjoy my sport, big sports fan, and a big fan of a barbecue, especially a charcoal barbecue. It gets me a little bit excited, the idea of jumping on that. Now, in terms of your legacy, a part of that as well is actually who you are as an individual. And for me, I believe the big part of the legacy that I want to leave is based on what my parents have done for me. And many of us, I'm sure, that are on tonight are actually not born in New Zealand or Australia. We often find that we've got people who have migrated to a country and are looking for bigger and better opportunities for themselves. And you know, for me, that's exactly the same thing. My parents moved over from South Africa when I was 13 years old. Didn't realize the sacrifices that they made. But for me, being able to give back to my parents, being able to build a portfolio for them, currently helping my dad through subdividing, mum and dad subdividing their property as well. So that knowledge that you can take to be able to impart on generations to come, but also generations before you, I think is really special. As my girls there, Isla and Harley, love a bit of fly fishing, don't mind a round of golf, and absolutely love the opportunity to be able to share and teach in this environment. So thank you very much for joining me. But before I do go any further, I need you guys to think about this idea. So what is the legacy that you're going to leave? When you have finished doing what you're up to with your investments within your life, what is that legacy? Because so often people associate property with money. They're like, okay, well, I'm gonna do property investment because I want to make money. But it's not necessarily just about the money. It's more than that. It's about the legacy. It's about the impact. It's about how you can help or create more time for yourself. So think about that, because that there will also relate to how you go about your investments. Because everybody's journey is going to be slightly different. Not everybody wants to be driving down the road in a Ferrari. Yes, it might be nice, but for some people, they would much rather have their family living in a beautiful home and being able to do trips overseas than have the Ferrari. Or it may be that, you know, some people are like, I don't want to work. Some people, I do want to work, but I want to be able to have this extra income that property can create for me. So just understanding what your legacy is helps to create a strategy that's best for you guys in going forward with your investment. Because at the end of the day, one investment property done right will absolutely change your family's life. One property. And I did already lead in this afternoon, or this evening, should I say, with the fact that one property can replace your salary. And that's so true. And I'm going to show you one deal. And the reason I'm going to show you this one is because of the person that did it, first of all, the story behind it. And I'm sorry, I missed before, who was asking about the Australia. I'm scrolling back to my comments. Esther, this deal was actually done by someone from Australia, from Adelaide. He ended up moving to New Zealand, but he was in Adelaide when he did this deal. But doing one property where you can actually go in and create $100,000 of income from one transaction. Now, this is a nice, simple trade where the purchase was $250. Listen, the numbers are good on this one. but we are getting $100,000 of profit on one deal. But the idea is that we've got Matt here, who's done this deal. Matt is now 24 years old. When he came through the education, just like you guys, he had $30,000. He's now done over $20 million worth of property. $20 million worth of property, and he turned up on a session just like this one with $30,000 in his bank account at 23 years old. It's pretty cool to hear those stories. Now, Matt has gone on to do a whole lot of different ideas and different developments, but one deal like this can make a difference. And it's pretty awesome to hear those stories. But to be able to distinguish how you're going to build your portfolio, I wanted to start off by saying that it's very, very important to start off with establishing what is going to be the best strategy that you can implement to be able to start building your portfolio to what you require from your portfolio. Because so often people go out there and they decide they're going to invest in property. And the first thing that they do is they go, right, I'm going to buy a property. And they either going to drive past the property on the way to work and go, oh, that's a pretty cool property. I think I'll buy that one because I can drive past work and make sure that the tenants are mowing the lawns every day. Or two, they're going to attend a webinar where some dude behind the camera is going to say, hey, I've got this awesome property which you can buy. Good thing that's not going to happen tonight. I do not sell property. I refuse. All about the education. And then lastly, it might be that you've ended up having a home and then you upgrade the home and then you keep the other property as your rental. Now, those are often ways that people get into their investment properties. So is that necessarily finding a strategy that's going to best get you to where you want to get to in terms of your financial goals or your wealth goals? So for us, it's about figuring out from a different angle. First of all, what do you want to achieve? What is the strategy that's best going to get you there? Then once we've distinguished the strategy that's best going to get us there, is what area can we implement this strategy? It's really, really important that the strategy aligns with the area that you're looking to invest in. And then last of all comes the actual deal that we're going to be jumping into. Last of all, the deal needs to fit within the area and the strategy that we're going to be investing. Now, in terms of strategies, you might be going, okay, well, what strategies are there? I'm going to give you kind of the, I guess, the head strategies, and there are 5 of them right here. But within these, there's almost like little sub-strategies that you can implement that you can look to use depending on your financial position, your financial goals, your access to capital, and how you're looking to build your portfolio. Not every strategy is for everybody. For some of you on this webinar tonight, it may be that number 1 is your goal. You want to be able to own a home. And you can actually do owning a home with an investment idea or mindset or thought process that means you set yourself up for wealth. You set yourself up to have more equity in your homes. You set yourself up to be able to create a better future for you and your family. Buy and hold is obviously the foundation in terms of a portfolio. Trading, flipping, I'm a fan of that. It's been a big part of my my strategy in building capital and building wealth, and definitely a great way for you to be able to get some good income along the way. There's no doubt about that one. And then we've got multi-income properties, which is properties that have multiple sources of income. We could be looking at like your boarding houses. It could be multiple income streams as in a sleep out in your house. There's different ways that you can have that in terms of getting extra income for from your properties, essentially from a multi-income. And then we take the next level up, which is developments. Again, not for everybody, but it might be something that you want to implement within your property investment strategy. There was a great comment from Mitch. I need to come back to that one later on, Mitch. Thank you so much for sharing that. I was reading that as I was talking. It was pretty tough to do some multitasking there. Pretty proud of myself. But here's a really crazy comment, because how often, or actually not even how often, all the time, people say buy property as though you're going to get growth on it. Buy this property because in 10 years it'll be worth this. I even, there's a few Facebook pages that I follow, and one of my students actually sent me a screenshot of one today where someone had found themselves in a bit of trouble because they bought a property saying, oh, the investment advisor that we bought the property off told us that this property would grow by this much over this period of time. Where do they get that information from? Because I would love to know if you can just predict where there's going to be growth. Maybe I've got to get one of those crystal balls, because, hey, that sounds like a brilliant idea. But the truth is that you can't actually predict growth. Yes, you can look at market factors. Yes, you can look at what's happening in areas in terms of infrastructure that's going in there and what may be happening with certain areas, definitely. And yes, what we've seen as well historically with property is we've seen growth of properties doubling every 7 to 10 years. It's on average growth about 5% per year over long periods of time. But we can't rely on that. And that's something I really want you to take away from tonight. You can't rely on that growth. Yes, it's a great byproduct that we can achieve from our investments, but we can't rely on it. But I'm going to show you in terms of growth of property. This is a stat from, well, there we can see from 1975 up to recently. There's a little bit of a blip at the top there, which we're in right now. But you can see that property has gradually grown over time. Yes, there's little blips in it, but we do have that growth factor. But for us to go into property transactions with the whole idea that, well, we're going to buy it as though it's never going to increase in value, where are we achieving our income from? Or how are we achieving wealth by doing this? Because the old concept is that we have to wait for property grow in value to be able to create wealth. What about making wealth by buying right? What about making wealth by actually being able to get cash flow from properties where there's income associated to the properties? Absolutely, Jess, couldn't agree more. What about buying properties where you know that there's enough value that you could adjust, tidy up, change a few things and sell it and make yourself a little bit of profit along the way, or big profit depending on how the deal stacks up, but create a better product going forward? But what I want to do is I want to say, well, what if values do increase? What if? Remember, I've just told you buys though values are never going to increase, but what if they do? And you've got yourself a portfolio. Now, this portfolio that you've got is going to be cash flow positive, meaning that every property is going to be creating an income for you. But let's say that you do have a property that a portfolio, and you've gone in, and the great thing about property is you have the ability to leverage. So you put in $250,000, and if the LVR is at 75%, the bank's going to give you $750,000. Now, these are round numbers and taking LVRs based on different lenders. So please don't quote me on saying, Jono said we could get 75%. It depends on the lender, it depends on the situation. And you can then buy a property for $1 million. So you've only put $250,000 in, but you get 5 years of 5% growth. If you'll end up with another $250,000, if you've got 4 properties having that, that means that you will have created $1 million of wealth. But again, I'm going to stress, we buy it without needing the value to increase. We buy it without needing the value to increase. But having that happen, you've actually had a wealth gain of $1 million. The ROI on that is substantial. And you can see by having this idea of properties in the long game, you will have substantial wealth for you and your family. But I don't want you to rely on that one. I don't want you to rely on the growth. I want you to rely on understanding to the property at the time of purchase in terms of both cash flow and in terms of value. And what that means is the ability to understand how you can use or create equity. And then when you created the equity, be able to take that equity to buy additional properties. So actually, I'd love to know, everybody in the chat, and chat's been a little bit quiet. There's a few comments there, so from Mitch and Jess, but equity. Who here understands the concept of equity or has equity in a property currently? Because equity is often in the home. And I'll show you what it actually is. The value of the home sits at, let's say, $1 million. This is pretty a round number for Australia and New Zealand. You've got a home that's worth $1 million. Within that home that's worth $1 million, there is a mortgage on the property, meaning that you have a loan against the property with the bank of, let's say, $400,000. I'll just pick some round numbers so we can work it. What that essentially means is you've got $600,000 of wealth, $600,000 equity, which is brilliant. But You can't go down to the local dairy and go, oh, I might buy this ice cream. Just chuck it on my equity, please. That there is not actually liquid cash that you can use. But is it, if you have the ability to leverage the equity? Now, you won't be able to use it in terms of going down to the dairy unless you have, well, there is a way of having a line of credit, but I think that's for another day. But when it comes to loan, having the ability to loan against the equity that you have, we have to first understand a concept called loan to value ratio. Loan to value ratio is essentially saying how much the bank or lender will lend you based on the value of your property. So if you then have a property that is worth, let's say $1 million, and the bank is saying, well, we're happy to lend you 80%, which is very, actually, it's what they're offering in terms of owner occupied right now. They will lend you 80%, giving you $800,000. So you've got a property worth $1 million. They'll say, here's $800,000, or you offer $200,000, you put $200,000 and they'll put $800,000 and you can buy the assets. But let's just go back to the same idea. What if we actually had $400,000 loan on the property that we have currently worth $1 million with a $400,000 loan? What that essentially means is that you've got $400,000 of something called usable equity. Now, one thing that I haven't taken into account in terms of all these calculations is something called serviceability. Now, this here is very dependent on your own situation, the types of properties that you have within your portfolio currently, and your incomes and your expenses. So I won't be able to figure that out for you guys, and that will be something that we can work through in the future for you. But having that $400,000 of usable equity there actually gives us the ability to leverage it. It's actually a deposit sitting right there on additional properties. So let's think about this concept. What is equity actually doing if you don't leverage it? What's that equity actually doing? Is it saving you money? Is it doing nothing, as in it's literally just the bank gives, hey, can use it? Lost potential? I'd agree with all that, absolutely. But if you think of it, I guess, from a logical point of view, all it is that if you've got equity that you could use, because if you use it, you're going to take it out, which means that you've got an additional loan. By not using it, you're saving paying the interest on that loan. But what if you could take it out and at 6%, which is, you know, locked in loans today at 6%. 6% comes out, actually 5.89. Comes out at 6%, and then you are able to go and invest that and get 9, 10, 11, 12, 20, 30% return for that money. So really, when you think about the equity that's sitting there, it is doing nothing. It is lost potential because you're not leveraging it to be able to create more income. But you want to be able to understand how to do that. So let me show you how that all works. The first thing we do is we take our usable equity. How much do we have available in terms of our loan to value ratio and how much we've borrowed on the property? Divide that by the deposit required. What that means is if you go to a lender and they say we require 40% deposit, we require 20% deposit, you would put that number into there. And that would then give you your purchasing power. How much you can go and buy another property for. That's the power of leverage. So again, we had that $400,000 that I showed you before. We've got a 60% loan to value ratio. This is an example. I hope I'm not going too fast through this one. You've got $400,000 of usable equity that we just worked out. Hope everyone's following. Divide that by 40%, which is how much you have to put in as a deposit, will mean that you can now go and buy another property for $1 million. And I bet you there's a lot of people out there currently sitting on equity that could be leveraged, that they don't realize that they could be buying more investment properties. They could be creating them an income. Now I'm going to throw this idea, and it's probably a little bit crazy, but hey, it's almost Christmas. When you buy property and you leverage income, you leverage equity, does that equity have to be your equity? The answer is no, it doesn't. You have the ability to leverage other people's equity You can give them a good return for their money, and you can also be able to create a profit for yourself. Definitely something I love being able to teach, and it's something we actually cover off on our 2-day masterclass, which is pretty cool. Right, I know we all want to see some deals. Now, keep that chat going. I'd love some feedback on this one, because this one here is one of my students that purchased a multi-income property. This one was purchased in Napier. Now, this property was purchased at kind of a random price, but hey, they had a bit of a negotiation on this one at $733. Now, the fascinating thing about this property is the renovation on the property was very, very minor. The renovation on this property of $35,000, but the value of the property post-reno value, based on understanding the market, sits at $950,000. And this property creates over $1,000 of income. I'm not talking about $1,000 of rent. The cash flow is not the rent. The cash flow is after rent, taking off all expenses, including all the mortgage. And the mortgage on this property is $733,000. So you've got income on the property, which is your rent, less your expense, which is the mortgage on the full amount, property managers, your maintenance, your rates, your insurance, and you're still working out getting a $13,000 per year of profit. Pretty cool. And based on what Mitch has just told us, he's been able to do exactly the same thing, which is fantastic. Probably, just as good. Well done, Mitch. That's so cool. It's so cool to hear. Right. So what is the formula to be able to continue doing this over and over and over and over again? How do we continue to build a portfolio, leveraging equity, buying cash flowing properties that puts cash flow in our pocket each month until you reach your financial goals? How can we do that? It's simple. And I would love you guys to grab a screenshot of this next one. Hopefully the screenshot doesn't have me in it, because it will ruin your screenshot, but grab a screenshot of this one. Because the very, very important concept is that when we buy a property, we buy below value, we add value to the property, and what that in turn gives us is an equity gain. Gives us an equity gain. Buy below value, add value, gives us an equity gain. Now, based on what I've just taught you guys, what do we do with that equity gain? We use it as a deposit to go and buy an additional property, which again has the income associated to it, which again, we follow the same principles of making sure we buy below value, we add the perceived value, and we get our equity gain. And by following these principles, it gives us the ability to build a portfolio. Now, depending on the strategy that you're implementing, you will either revalue and refinance the property, which gives us the ability to buy another one. Or if you're a property trader, you would sell that property, make yourself a profit, and then use that profit to buy a new car, or buy another property, or replace your salary. There's some great opportunities when you start to understand the concepts of it. So now, in the chat, who now believes me that we can follow this concept? We need to get more chat going, otherwise I might have to magically remove the slides of the property deal at the end. Who believes now that we can actually use this concept of buying the property as though we're not going to actually need the property to increase in value? Thank you, Jess. Absolutely, absolutely. Because we have the idea as to how we can use that equity. So let's now have a look at it if we did the whole concept on an actual investment property. So purchase at 300, we have a 60% LVR, which means that we have to put in $120,000 of deposit, $180,000 mortgage. I hope that all makes sense to everybody. If not, don't worry, we've got some further opportunities to teach you all these concepts. And then we take the equity that we've got on this property to be able to revalue. So the property has then gone up in value to 500. Remember, we originally had a mortgage. We can now take a mortgage up to 60% on this property, $500,000 property. We can take $300,000 of mortgage, but we have a mortgage on it currently based on the original purchase price of $180,000. What that means then is that we've actually got the ability to have $120,000 of usable equity. And we follow the same principles at 60% LVR, 120 divided by 40 means that we have another $300,000 to go and buy an additional property. Really cool to be able to see those opportunities within properties and the leverage and over again. Now, what I'd like to show you guys now is in terms of the property that I just showed you, the cash flow property, this one right here. But what if they actually came in and put in a deposit? Because remember, initially I showed you that they put in, they borrowed 100% of the money, all borrowed against the against previous properties to purchase that property. But what if they actually came in and put a deposit in? A $222,000 deposit on this property with a new value at $950,000. Okay. What that looks like in terms of a cash flow number is that we've actually increased the cash flow. Remember before, if they borrowed 100% of the money, their cash flow was at 13,000. Now they've got 24,000, almost 25,000, because they've got less lending costs associated to the property. So in terms of this, it all looks really great because you've got more cash flow. But you've had to put in $222,000 of your money into this deal. Whereas before, we put nothing in. And remember, I actually mentioned this before, growth is great byproduct, but we want to be focusing on the cash flow and the equity creation, because that there is really where the wealth is created. So then let's have a look at the next stage of it. Now, the refinance out. So now we've taken this property, it's now got a value of $950,000, which means that you can borrow 70% of the value of this property, meaning you can borrow $665,000 against the value of it. Now, the old loan on this property was $511, meaning, or actually, let's add the renovation in there of 35, meaning that you actually have the ability to take out $135,000 of this property. Remember, the new loan, the old loan, the difference is what we can actually then take out of this transaction, meaning you can take $153,000 out of the property. If you then took that $153,000 as a deposit on a new property, that means you can now go buy another property for $511,000 based on the equity that you've created, and you've still got your $13,000 of cash flow. I hope this is really sinking in for you guys. The ability to buy property correctly, buy investment properties correctly, gives you the ability to build substantial cash flow, substantial wealth by understanding principles. And right now, within the New Zealand property market, we have the best opportunity in terms of equity creation and equity in the buys. Now, I'm going to quickly share with you guys, I'm going to race through this in terms of adding value to the property, because I want to be able to share as much as I can for you guys within this hour. So let's have a look at how we can actually add value to a property. Because adding value is something that we talked about so many times in terms of being able to create the equity. So first of all, let's start off with a cosmetic renovation. This here is the idea of jumping into a property and making it look pretty. We often call the concept of putting lipstick on a pig. Buy the property, give it a paint carpet, that sort of cosmetic renovation. Then we have the next level up, which is the structural renovation. This means making adjustments to the layout of the property. This might be adding walls, taking out walls, making it open plan. Adjusting the layout is where we start to go into the structural. Now, probably one of the questions that's coming across to you guys as well, how do we decide what renovation we do based on the property? Well, that depends on the area, the strategy, and also the type of property that we're investing in. And we cover this off on our masterclass. And then we have the conversions, which is converting the garage example into another dwelling, creating a sleep out on that one. We have change of title. This idea, cross leases have a negative stigma around it. So what about if we can take a cross lease and create a freehold? If we could take a leasehold, there's an interesting title option. To take a leasehold and actually create a freehold title. There's value to be added by going through that principle. Then we have adding dwellings. This goes without saying, adding on additional subdivisions. There's adding dwellings and then there's subdividing. Adding a dwelling could be a granny flat or a minor dwelling, a subdivision, granny flat for you Australians, whereas a minor dwelling is the New Zealand concept, or subdivisions where it's actually on its own title and a separate property. Even just adding a consent to a property, a resource consent to be able to subdivide, is actually going to be adding value to the property as well. The usage, this is in terms of, is it commercial usage to residential? This is again a great way to be able to add value to a property. And one more that's really important that often people miss, and that is the simple idea of being able to get the property at market rent adds value to the property and ensures that you are getting the best income for your property, but also the best value at the back end of that one. So taking these ideas, and I'd love for you guys to grab a screenshot of this, and if you look at properties in the future, think about these ideas and how you can implement them in any transaction that you're looking to take on, because these ideas is how you're going to start to create your wealth. So now that we're starting to understand the ideas of buying our investment properties, we need to start thinking about what it is that we're going to look to buy. And really, the idea is that we need to have a plan in place to get you to where you want to get to. When you've got the education and the ideas and the concepts behind you to be able to make informed decisions as to your investing, you'll then have a clearer plan as to the types of properties that you'll be looking to buy. Remember that we've got multiple different strategies that you can be looking to implement in terms of your investment. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to start at 1, and it doesn't necessarily mean you start at 2. You could come in at 3, 4, or 5, depending on your previous and depending on your capital availability and what you're looking to achieve. Now, I know that I've mentioned the masterclass a couple of times, and Mitch was so cool because Mitch, on the chat, when did you attend? I didn't know you were coming along tonight. It's really cool that you're here. When did you attend the masterclass? I saw before a comment, that you went off and purchased yourself a 13.35% gross yielding property after attending it. That's amazing. So cool, Mitch. Yeah. How cool is that? That's amazing, Mitch. I'm brilliant. How good is that, Carol? How good is that? Now, I did share with you guys that I would jump in and bring up a deal that was recently purchased. Now, I actually purchased this one on Monday. And it's so fresh that this is a photo from Saturday where I did a little viewing on it. That's my daughter there, Isla. Took her along. Awesome, Mitch. Thank you so much. Took my daughter along and she was project manager. And she laughed. She walked in and she goes, "Daddy, why is it so small and why are there so many flies?" That was her comment. But we took her along to this property when I went through with the builder, just planning the renovation. I went unconditional on Monday. Settle next Friday on this one. And the strategy that's getting implemented on this property is actually number 3. The whole strategy that we're looking to implement is the idea of buying this property, renovating it, using a cosmetic, a little bit of structural, because there's a slight layout change, and then getting the property back on the market. Now, I can't share many details of this property because it hasn't actually settled yet. It settles next week. But I can share with you a few of the details in terms of it. You can see, first of all, the CV on this property was $770 capital value on that one. The asking price on this property was $669,000. Let's play a little game. Purchase price in the chat, please. Let's play a little game. What do you think I purchased this property for? So we got a CV of $770. We got an asking price of $669. $630. Okay, cool. I need at least 2 more before I'll share the number. $625. Getting closer. We're going to get 1 more. Okay, 600. Still getting closer. So the property was purchased at $575. That's in South Auckland. And a lot of people say you can't really buy anything for under $700,000 in Auckland. Well, $575,000 in the current market. And here's what we are planning to do. So we will be jumping in and doing a $40,000 renovation on this property. It'll be mainly cosmetic. There is a slight change because currently, to get to the toilet, currently you actually have to go through the kitchen. So I'm going to adjust that because that's not really desirable for on selling to investors or to home buyers at the back end of it. We've got a settlement on this property that actually settles next Friday on this property. And the post-reno value is anticipated at $740,000 plus from a sale. I actually had a chat to my one of my agents today, and we've already started planning the marketing. So as going into this, and I want to share this with you guys, and thank you so much for jumping on tonight so I can share this with you guys. But going into this transaction in the current market, it's not about just going in and going, right, I know that I can sell it to this because anybody wants to buy a property. It's being very clear about what you're looking to achieve from your investment, and who is going to be the ones that turn up to that open home. Who are the ones that are going to be looking at the listings? So you can make sure that you create the product that they are after. For me, I know that in this area, there is strong land banking and investors, but there also is good first home buyer appeal or proper people looking at this from a first home buyer standpoint or home buyer standpoint. So the strategy will be to get it up to healthy home standards, to bring it up to that first home buyer standard. As well as that, it also has development potential. It actually has a section that you can put 3 dwellings on as well. So making sure that you market it correctly so that people understand the capabilities within their property investment. So these are some ideas. I've never shared that much detail on one of the power hours, but you guys are lucky. Merry Christmas, you can have that. And hopefully that's given you a bit of idea as to what is possible in the current market. Now, all of this might all sound a bit, pretty cool, but I didn't know how to do all this stuff. I had no idea how to do all this stuff prior to actually following what was happening within with getting the education from what I've been to know. It was off of an investor, Jess, that this property was purchased. And when I say investor, I mean investor. But having the knowledge is the key concept to be able to pull off or to be able to do the deals like you've seen from all our students that I've shared with you tonight. So having the knowledge, and that's why we are so proud of what we do in terms of our property masterclass. And Mitch actually shared with you guys before that he attended at one of our masterclasses. The next one that we have is in the new year. I'm not going to do any more this year. We're at the end, but we are jumping into one on the 11th and 12th of February. So that gives you some time to enjoy your January holidays and join us start of January for 2023, which I believe is going to be the greatest opportunity in terms of creating wealth in property. We have great opportunities in understanding the markets and making sure that we are buying properties correctly. Now, the whole masterclass is the ability to be able to educate in all concepts of investment. It is a pretty full-on couple of days that we spend. The team that we've got coming in is exceptional. I'm going to share a photo soon with you in terms of the team that we have attending the masterclass. And I do have a really awesome Christmas present for you guys that are keen to jump in and head along for the masterclass. This is some of the stuff that we cover, and that might look like a lot, but it is. While that is a lot of teaching, it's not just you guys sitting there listening for 2 days. We make it as an interactive event. So you have the ability to comment, to jump in and ask questions. We jump into breakout rooms. We have all the questions answered. We go through personal strategies as well. It's a really cool couple of days where it's interactive, but it's virtual. We deliver it from the studio. And all the mentors come on, and it's not just me that you have to listen to for 2 days, which I know you would absolutely not want to have to deal with that one for sure, because we do have a pretty exceptional team that head along. Belinda, who is one of our mentors, she's actually from Australia, from Perth, lives half her time in Australia, half her time in New Zealand. Therese, based down in Queenstown. Pretty awesome portfolio down in Invercargill. Paul, who's big in the development space, he's built, I think it's over 700 homes now. Amazing energy. Ryan, he's like our resident economist. You've met Carol tonight. She will be there as well. Carol shares ideas around social housing and how you can look to implement that within your portfolio. Helen, who is an accountant by trade, has built a portfolio that's exceptional. Helen's whole concept as well if I don't know that strategy, I'm going to go do a deal in it so I can learn it. And she's an accountant as well. So there's a whole lot of knowledge that comes with the team at Wealth Mentor on the Property Masterclass. I will be there as well, but really the heavy lifting is done by the team as we share and we jump into breakouts, and we have the one-on-one time to be able to work through your education on those couple of days. And it probably comes down to this, because everybody's journey through property is different. My journey is different to Carol's journey is different to what Mitch has gone and done, what Jess is doing. Everybody's journey is different. But having the education means that your journey is sped up and reduces the risk that you take within your investment. I truly believe the education is the key. I truly believe the education is what gives me the ability to create the portfolio that we've been able to create. Again, those dates for you guys, 11th and 12th. And here is what is included. I'm going to share with you very shortly in terms of the Christmas present that we do have for you. It's the 2-day event. We got the strategy call during the event. We also have a strategy call leading up to the event, an opportunity leading up to the event to jump on a call with one of my team. It's usually Carol, so you win there for sure in terms of having a chat around your strategy and how you can best learn from the masterclass in that space. And we do usually offer this at $14.97, which, well, it's Christmas time, so let's cross that out. And we do have it for you guys at $2.95, which I think is a pretty cool option. Now, we've got a link. Carol, are you onto it? Have you got a link yet that you can jump in the chat? Not yet? Okay, don't worry, guys. We'll get that link to you in just a second. Is it there for you on terms of if you scan that QR code? Tell you what, I can do that for you as well while I'm at it and get you a link. Cool. I should have had that link ready to go, Carol. Useless of me, eh? And I'll drop that in the chat for you guys. Option. Cool. So link going in the chat for those of you that head along and have a look at the details. Now, you do need to put that coupon code in. It is very important. So in terms of how you do the coupon code, let me show you how that is done. When you head along and click that link, you're going to go to a page that looks like this. This is where you register for the masterclass. Now, you need to go down just where it says password. There is a spot there that says have a coupon. Please make sure you click on that one right there and put in deal 295. Deal 295. What that's going to mean is that gets you the masterclass at $295, which is a huge opportunity, a small investment in your future. And in terms of that, guys, we've got the event coming up in February. Those dates don't work for you. It should be enough time, hopefully, that you can get everything in order to be able to join us. We do have events coming up again in March and in April as well. So you pop in there, deal 295, and that'll ensure that you get that for 295. Now, I've realized that in terms of heading along to the masterclass, it's probably not something that you want to do alone. You want to do that with a friend. So we are offering the opportunity to bring your friend along for free, whether they're with you in the same room or whether you've got somebody or another couple that wants to join us from an external link. That is all good. We want to offer you 2 tickets to the Property Masterclass tonight. I do feel like I'm on an infomercial right now when I do this, but it is the best way that I can get across to you guys, the best opportunity to join us for only $295 on the Property Masterclass. Again, that link is in the chat, and I will share with you one more time the QR code if you want to scan your from your phone and get that all sorted. We would love to see you along there. Now, I did say that there would be a Christmas present. Yes, it's only $295, which I know is an opportunity in terms of a Christmas present, but I got one more for you guys. And I think this is only going to be open for those of you that join tonight. For those of you who join tonight, I'm going to throw in an extra. I want to have a strategy call with you guys as well, an additional strategy call, half an hour that we'll jump on the phone, and I will share with you guys any ideas or concepts that I believe will help you guys in building your portfolio. So we'll add that in for those of you that join us and commit to joining us at the masterclass tonight. So definitely want to jump in and act right now, decide on what path we're going to take, because we have a couple of options. We could do nothing, keep doing what we've always done, or we could jump in and we can take action. I'm going to share with you guys in just a second a video that will give you a little bit more details in terms of the masterclass. I'm going to hang around as soon as we finish up tonight's power hour. For those of you that have any questions, I will be here. Let's jump in, let's answer those questions. And thank you so much for joining us, guys. Your time is now. If you have any questions, for those of you signed up, I can't wait to have that half-an-hour session. Here's a quick video. It'll give you guys a bit more details in terms of the masterclass. I'll hang around and let's have a bit of a chat. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Awesome. Those links are there again. If anybody has any questions, I'm going to hang around. I'm going to stop recording now. For those of you that joined us live, I hope you did enjoy the recording. And thank you and good night.